everyone. We're having the next talk that is with Acing the data science interview, and I believe many of us are looking forward to this one. We're having Sandi Conroy. She's a career coach, a certified professional coach focused on helping her clients achieve the life and career of their dreams. Her 16-year analytics career spans the technology, software, identity verification, lead generation, and insurance industries. She's an expert in compassionate management who has developed training programs around feedback, diversity and inclusion, and career progression mapping. So can we welcome her to the stage?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That is such a warm blurb that I wrote myself, but thank you for having me here regardless. So yeah, I'm a career coach, but my roots are in data science and data science management. I spent a long time at Geico Car Insurance in the States, then some marketing analytics, then Facebook for a while, and Workday. And during that time, I conducted over 300 interviews. And you learn some things. So what I want to share today is some tips to help us do better on those interviews. And so there's obviously baseline skills that you need to have as a data scientist and the skills and experience, but I'm hoping these tips will help get us over the line. So overarchingly, the advice is to put some time into thinking about why are they asking me this? Because if we just try and answer the question, we may miss what they're actually trying to do. And I'm going to walk you through a couple of key skills that they ask for in data science interviews and why the interviewers are actually asking about this. So today we're going to talk about coding, choosing metrics, case studies, storytelling, and behavioral signals. So for coding, what they're really trying to understand from this interview is, can the candidate accurately work with data? So it's not necessarily about being code perfect. It's about, do I trust what they are telling me? Do I trust that if I sent them loose on our data, they could bring us some insights? Some tips to work through these, which are often more gotchas on the coding side, is always start by briefly talking through what you would do to check the quality of the data, even if it's a whiteboard exercise. So, okay, I would look for any documentation on the data. I would do some distributions and frequencies to get a sense of what's in there and sort of make sure that I understand the quality before we get going. Next, think carefully about edge cases. When you write your code, what happens if some of that data is missing or null or zero? Will it calculate correctly? Keep in mind for your code that it should always be as simple as possible, and it should be reproducible. So if you have to make a change, that's great. Try not to have separate chunks of code where you would have to run each independently. If you can run it all in sort of one go, again, even if it's a whiteboard interview, that's a good sign. And it's way more important that you are thinking about the problem the right way than that you are code perfect. Because we all have some errors, and you can Google that, right? Like on the job, you'll be able to fix that. So most companies are less interested in that, and they are more interested in seeing if you could draw a conclusion given enough time with the data set. Another important skill is choosing metrics. So as a part of case studies or some coding exercises, often they will ask you to choose metrics. And can the candidate prioritize or make accurate decisions is what they are trying to figure out here. The way you can show them that is to be specific. Are they looking for a count, percentage, mean, median, ratio, and give them the numerator and the denominator? Really help them understand why you are choosing these and sort of what you would look at. It's not helpful when someone just says click-through rate. Well, what does that mean? What are you counting? Do they have to go to the website, or are they opening the ad, et cetera? So be very specific there. The meanest thing I ever wrote on interview feedback is, I would not trust this person with my fractions. From there, you also want to think about what is inherently valuable. So if it's a retailer, do likes to their Instagram page, does that matter? Is that something that actually means something to the company if they have more of that? Maybe, maybe not. So they may have a sense that more visits to our Instagram will tie to more customer visits, will tie to more sales, but that's an assumption that you should at least state. No metric is perfect, so when you do list something, be ready to articulate the pros and cons of what it might be capturing, what it might be missing, because there will always be something else. And then think about balancing competing needs. So a really good example here is any food delivery systems that we've got. out right now. You have to care about what the restaurant wants. You have to care about what the driver wants. You have to care about what the consumer wants. And so being able to speak to how your code and your metrics services any of those groups can be helpful. A third skill that's really important is the case studies. So what the companies are trying to ascertain is, can this candidate use data to solve business problems? So pulling the data isn't enough. It's how do you apply it to the issues that I am having in my business? Some tips here. It's always good to start with proposing if you can, or asking if you've got nothing, what we are trying to solve for. So they'll put forward a case study of, oh, we're going to implement grocery delivery along with our rider delivery. Why? What market are we trying to meet? What would success be for this? Because you might answer your question differently if what you're trying to do is get more of a market share of groceries versus not lose delivery customers. It's always important to think about TAM, which stands for total addressable market. What is the total number of people who would use this? Is it worth doing? And sort of anchor on something in the real world. You can also anchor on what success really means for the company or the team. You should look up in advance the company's public mission statement and how they are monetized. So as you're answering these questions, okay, I know it's important to you, YouTube, to have more watch minutes because you can show more ads. So this is how this case study, this product that I'm working on, will service that need. This shows the companies that you are really set on tying back your ideas and your work to the overall success, and that you're not going to be working in isolation. Storytelling is also important, especially for more senior candidates. We will fail people for not telling a good story of the work that they've done, because if I don't trust you, if you're not able to explain to me why the work was important as an interviewer, I'm not sure that you'll be able to explain it to the VP of product when I put you in front of them. So what's really important here is getting all the way through to, like, what was the result of the story you're telling. So you'll get a lot of tell me about a time type questions, and they tell me about a time, but then they don't tell me what happened because of it. And tying that back to metrics is always really helpful. We made more money, we closed more deals, we reduced error rate, and sort of telling the full story through to the results. One system that you can use here is the STAR method you might have heard of for interviewing. It helps you hit the relevant points. You list out the situation, the task, the action, and most often missed, the results. One thing you can do in advance is think about the top couple business cases you've got from your own experience in the Tell Me About a Time interviews. List these out in advance. Have yourself a little table so that you're ready to go when people ask you about that. And finally, behavioral signals. This one baffles a lot of people. What I'm going to tell you now, you also have to change in your regular life. You can't just change in the interview and then go back to being mean afterwards. But we're really looking for if the candidate can work well with a team. And the things we want to see is for someone to be kind. You should be collaborative, respectful, and inclusive. There are studies shown that if you put a male and a female interviewer in a room, a bunch of candidates won't even address the female interviewer. So keep in mind how you are treating the people that you're working with. You should be clear, speak slowly and clearly, ask for clarification, but not hints. We're not here to help you. We're here to judge if you can do the job. It's okay to work something out in your head first, or to ask for a little bit of time to make some notes. You just say, let me have some time to process that and I'll get back to you. 30 seconds to take notes, perfectly fine. We want to see that you are putting your thoughts together in a clear way. You should be interested. So even if you've been through 6 interviews and you feel like you've exhausted your questions, if at the end of the interview they say, do you have any questions for me? And you say no, they're going to think you don't care about the job. Repeat questions, ask thoughtful things. You should ask about the interviewer, about the company, about the role, some basic ideas for you. Tell me about a project that you are most proud of. You can ask that 1,000 times and get different answers. Who are your main stakeholders and what ways do you work with them? If you could magically change one thing about the role, what would it be? I like this one because sometimes you find out that you don't want to work there based on their answer to it. But yeah, never say you don't have any questions. Dig and find something. Because we want people who are engaged. So from there, camera's ready. I've got a summary slide. that lists out the different skills and the key tips. I'll give everybody a minute. Great. You can reach out afterwards too, and I can share information with you if you want. I have a couple of bonus tips. So if you can, where you are, get involved as an interviewer. Nothing makes it more clear how to be a good interviewer than seeing 200 bad interviews and 100 good interviews. So do get involved there. See how the company is talking about it. See the reasons they fail. People see what they're looking for, and you'll be much more prepared to do it in the future. It also is a good thing to show your employers that you care and you're helping. Use your analysis skills to understand your job application funnel. So I know as well as anybody that the tech industry is a struggle right now, and you might feel like you're sending out a lot of applications and not hearing back. But if you can understand, is it the CV that's not getting attention? Is it the applications versus is it interviewing versus is it one type of interview? If you use your analysis skills to sort of figure out where your bottlenecks are, you can be targeted about how you fix that. And then a new thing that's available is professional interview prep. The company you are interviewing probably has someone who has done a bunch of these interviews and then can help you out with that. So do have a Google to sort of see who might be able to run you through a sample interview to be fully ready when the time comes. So those are my bonus tips. That's everything I have for today. We have a couple of minutes for Q&A. Thank you, friends.
So just a question on the data science aspects of things. Data science is vast in terms of skill set that one needs. And particularly with senior roles, there's an expectation that you know everything, but that's not possible. Like A/B testing is a different world together, and then there's machine learning and there's deep learning and everything. So there might be a job description which you know is like fits 80% of what you've done in your past, but the 20% is what something they ask in the interview. You know stuff, but you've not practically done it. So how do you kind of bridge that gap with your answers or communication? Even if you've done like some proof of concepts around it, how do you kind of communicate that you know stuff and you can do stuff?
Well, if they're asking about it, it's very important to them. So if it's not something that is in your wheelhouse, I think that is realistic. And so there's no way to sort of couch it and be like, oh, but I know other things. I think it's important to understand sort of on that web that you see sometimes where your skills fall. It's important to have a baseline understanding of what they are. And you can ask in advance what is going to be covered on the interviews to get some tips. So the name of the interview, the recruiters will usually spend some time explaining to you what is covered in each so that you can prepare. And if you feel underprepared in A/B tests, you can do a little bit of prep work there. But if they're measuring it, that's what they want to know. And if they find someone who's a better fit, it's reasonable that they would pick that. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for your insights. I've got a question around reaching out to data scientists on LinkedIn. So how can we make more authentic communications via LinkedIn?
For what purpose?
For jobs, networking. I'm often find myself, you've got a great profile, I want to reach out, but I don't really know, how to do that.
Sure. I think the thing with mentorship is a lot of people ask for it, and if they ask for it and they are strangers to me, I don't have any reason to help them. So I guess the question is, what is the other thing that you can connect on? And is it about connecting? Is it about building a relationship? Is it about what you can provide for them as well? So making it mutually beneficial. I've literally gotten reach outs being like, hey, can you help me with my career? And I'm like, no, I don't know who you are, So it's about finding a more authentic connection and sort of seeing where that can fit in. Maybe they've got an upcoming event at their company that you would actually like to attend. Maybe you've got one you want to invite them about. So I would say think less about I want to talk to this person from what I can get, and think more about I can build the connection and then see what grows of it. Because they might not have something right now, but they might have something in the future. So one thing I've noticed about my career is a lot of the success I've had is things that I do by accident. So when I sit down and go, oh, I'm going to do these strategic things, they don't lead to anything. But it's when I'm helping out a friend, then they invite me somewhere and we sort of make those connections. So I think if you put human connection and how you can help at the top of the stack, you'll probably have a bit more success too.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much. And my question is how to bridge the gap between the academia and industry in the process of interview. For example, when you are asked to tell a story about your project and something you write on your CV, which people really do ask questions about that. And I was wondering like how to effectively tell a story, for example, based on the STAR strategy. Yeah.
Yes, I think that might be a bit specific case by case, but the question is how can you apply some of those things to it? And usually the interview processes are a little different for someone coming directly from academia than from someone in the industry, and they do account for that and sort of measure you across that bar. But the industry is tight right now, so we might lose out to people with experience. I think it's about thinking through where you can get that experience, right? So in academia, you may have done all of the analysis, but you may not have had to work with stakeholders. Where in your life have you had to do that? Or how can you find it? Were you trying to transfer to a different program and you had to talk to the university about it? Have you had volunteer gigs where you can do it? So I think one thing is to be creative and to think a little bit outside of your work experience. Another thing is to create those opportunities by starting a group, joining a group, getting some reasons to interact with people and to share your data instead of doing it in isolation so that you'll have good stories to tell later.
First of all, thank you for the wonderful talk. My question is, are there some cues that we need to look out for on the interviewer to know how well we are doing on an interview? Because in most cases, we don't get feedback on the interview to know what we did right and what we did not do right. So are there something we can look out for to know, maybe based on their reactions, responses, to know what we did right in the interview in case of further subsequent interviews?
Yeah, you could ask for official feedback from the company, so you are allowed to do that, and they will provide it to you. The problem is every interviewer you talk to is going to have a slightly different process. And so like when I was teaching people to interview, I would intentionally say not to be too supportive. So I can't go, oh, good job, because I might not hire you. And that's the case. So you're not necessarily going to be able to tell from the individual what is going on. Definitely don't ask like, oh, what did I do right or wrong? One question some people like, it's a little controversial at the end, do you have any doubts about hiring me for this role? And they might say, oh, I don't think you have the A/B test experience. It'll give you a chance to address it in the moment, and it'll give you some understanding while still being collaborative and still being about filling this role and doing something for them and less about yourself. So that's one question you could experiment with to see how it works for you. Or you can ask for official feedback from the company, or you can just sort of see where the issue was. So I often have people coming to me being like, oh, I'm not good at the behavioral stuff. My stories don't hold up. They're not developed enough. And then we can work on that together.
Okay, just to add on to what you said, it's not like a question. From my experience, what I did was that I asked them what kind of skills do I need to learn to be fit for this role. So if they end up repeating what I just said during the interviews, that's a big ups. But if they end up adding more things, more than what I gave to them, then it means that these are the things I could work on. But most of the times when you ask for feedback, they tell you they can't give you a feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, they can't tell. Often when people ask for feedback, they want to know, did I do well or did I do poorly? So if you ask for something specific of like, what are the gaps or what should I work on next, I can tell you a little bit about that. I can't give you the answer to this question. I can't talk to you more about that because we're going to reuse it. I can't tell you that I think you did a really great job because the other 4 people might think that wasn't the case. So they are very... they can't like approve of you or disapprove of you because they might need some time to digest as well, but they might be able to tell you specific things. What is one thing you think I should study before going into my next interview is something that they might help with.
Thank you, everyone. I think we still have time for one more question, if anyone has any question. Yeah.
Thanks for the presentation. Sure. You said you had 200 bad interviews and 100 good ones. What's something which would make someone stand out to you, and what would be something which someone would be like, that's an instant no for me?
Yeah, I think it's what I summarized here. This is a collection of it. So instant no's. I gave somebody a hint once just to make their life easier in the coding. Oh, actually, you can concatenate like that, and he told me I was wrong. Don't, you know. So like, be nice, be cool is important. Be calm wherever you can. Those are all things that could say like, oh, this person isn't a team player, and I don't care how good their code is. I'm not going to sick them on anybody here. Things that are really advanced are, there have been times where I haven't had to say a word. They just tell the whole story, right? So you ask a question, and they talk through, this is how I would prepare, and this is what I would do, and this is what the result is. And like, if we do that, we might want to run an experiment like this. So the best interviews are when they have a lot of ideas, and I just sit and I'm like, oh yeah, like put them in a seat. And let's keep going. Exactly. So when they are driving the conversation instead of waiting for me, when they show initiative, when they have plans, when they are sort of taking me all the way to the results stage, that's always very helpful. And then any like analytical problems or short-sightedness, or if I ask you for like, oh, let's brainstorm some metrics, and you run out, and I go, no, give me some more, you know? So like, never stop. If they ask for a list of things, keep going until they stop you. So be that person who drives it, and they'll be very excited to bring you in and work with you.
Thank you so much, Sandi, and thank you, everyone. Let's give her an applause.